Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the fanfiction guy. Back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Became Immortal Hellspawn. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Izuku Midoriya found himself grappling with the weight of betrayal. Friends and mentors had turned against him, branding him a traitor. The harsh words echoed in his mind, accusations of deceit, disbelief from those he trusted most. Eri, Koda, and the wild pussycat stood by him, but the others were relentless. Even his mother, though informed, refused to accept the claims against him. He had always been the one to support his friends, to protect them, so why would he betray them? He had meticulously taken notes to help everyone, not to harm them. As he faced the onslaught of accusations, he was too injured to defend himself. The guards, showing no mercy, forced him into a truck, punishing him for every stumble with their quirks and weapons. He felt like a mere shadow of himself, beaten and broken. Uraraka tried to convince Eri and Koda of his innocence, but they remained unconvinced. Ida attempted to intervene, only for Koda to retaliate fiercely. As they neared Tartarus, the vehicle suddenly shook violently. Then, with a deafening explosion, the truck erupted, sending debris flying. Midoriya was thrown from the wreckage, landing hard in a nearby forest. He lay there, barely clinging to life, his injuries worsening. Voices reached his ears, discussing his fate. One voice, feminine and eager, expressed disappointment that he was not dead yet. Another voice, commanding and cold, ordered a portal to be opened. Midoriya realized he was in the presence of the League of Villains, but he was too weak to move or call for help. Darkness began to close in on him, and as he fought to stay conscious, he noticed a figure approaching a woman in heels. Just as he tried to focus on her, his vision faded, and he succumbed to unconsciousness. The girl, Mori Calliope, recognized his condition and decided to take him with her. She opened a portal and carried him through, determined to help him. When Izuku awoke, he found himself in a dimly lit pink room adorned with skulls and a gaming setup. Confused, he checked for a pulse and was astonished to find one. His body was bandaged, with fresh wounds still visible. As he tried to gather his thoughts, the door swung open, and a girl with pink hair entered, carrying a glass of water. She rushed to his side, urging him not to move. He was too parched to respond verbally, so she offered him the water, which he drank eagerly. After quenching his thirst, he managed to ask who she was. "I'm Mori Calliope, the Grim Reaper's apprentice," she replied, watching his eyes widen in surprise. He struggled to comprehend how he was alive. Callie explained that her mentor had brought him back after he had been unjustly harmed. Izuku felt a surge of emotion as he processed her words. Even though he had been framed, the reality that his friends had turned against him weighed heavily on his heart. Tears streamed down his face as he realized the depth of their betrayal. Callie, sensing his pain, offered him a comforting hug. He flinched at first but then hesitantly returned the embrace. "You need this," she said softly. "Those who have been hurt need someone to be there for them. My mentor believes you have the heart of a true hero." Grateful yet still confused, Izuku asked where he was. "You're in my room," Callie replied, and he felt a blush creep across his cheeks as he took in his surroundings. Callie giggled and reassured Izuku that he wasn't a pervert, which made him sigh in relief. He then asked if they were still on Earth, to which Callie shook her head and explained that they were in the underworld. Curious, Izuku inquired about her gaming setup, noting that she was the Grim Reaper's apprentice. Callie confirmed this but also mentioned that she was a streamer and asked if he had heard of Hololive. Izuku recalled it was a group of virtual YouTubers, and Callie acknowledged that he didn't watch them but encouraged him to rest. She suggested he could watch her stream while keeping quiet. As they settled into their new dynamic, it became clear that this was the beginning of a deeper relationship between them. After Callie finished her stream, she and Izuku walked to meet the Grim Reaper, her sensei. Izuku was still astonished that the Grim Reaper's apprentice was also a streamer. Upon arriving at a grand castle, they entered and soon found the Grim Reaper sitting on his throne. He welcomed Izuku, who felt nervous in the presence of such a powerful figure. The Grim Reaper reassured him that there was no need to be anxious and requested Callie to leave them for a private conversation. Once alone, the Grim Reaper explained to Izuku why he had brought him back to life. He revealed that Izuku had a good heart and upon his death, was meant to go to heaven. However, the Grim Reaper had asked Kami to bring him to the underworld to offer him a special power. As he spoke, a man entered the room. Izuku was taken aback when the man introduced himself as Hanzo Hasashi, his father. The Grim Reaper confirmed Hanzo's identity, and Izuku was filled with shock. Hanzo explained that he had been allowed to visit Earth temporarily because he was Death's Hellspawn, a warrior who brought wicked souls to the underworld. He shared that he had been killed in the past and had been given a chance for revenge by the Grim Reaper. Izuku, confused about their family name, learned that his mother had hidden their true identity for their protection. Hanzo revealed that they belonged to the Shirai Ryu clan of ninjas and that he had asked Inko to keep their lineage secret to keep them safe from enemies. As the conversation progressed, the Grim Reaper hinted at Izuku's potential future. Hanzo expressed his desire for Izuku to take his place as Death's Hellspawn and to help bring villains to the underworld. Izuku, understanding the weight of the offer, felt a mix of emotions but ultimately accepted the responsibility. Hanzo proudly announced that Izuku would now be known as Izuku M. Hasashi. The Grim Reaper informed Izuku that his training would begin the next day and last for 5 years. Izuku was initially shocked by the length of the training, but the Grim Reaper reassured him that time in the underworld passed differently than on Earth. Before they concluded, Izuku made a request for Hanzo to be allowed to visit Earth to see his mother, who had been struggling since his quirkless discovery. The Grim Reaper agreed, noting that while Hanzo could visit, he would still have responsibilities in the underworld. Hanzo was surprised but grateful for the opportunity. Finally, Izuku asked where he would stay. During this time, and the Grim Reaper mentioned that he would be staying with Callie for now, which made Izuku blush. The Grim Reaper, noticing his discomfort, reassured him that it would be fine. Callie was a nice girl, and Death believed they would get along well. He thought that perhaps they could even be more than friends. Izuku felt a mix of apprehension and determination as he prepared for the training ahead. Hanzo warned him that the training would be far more challenging than anything he had experienced before. Many had struggled under his rigorous methods, but Izuku was resolute. He looked down, his hair casting a shadow over his eyes, but then he grinned, filled with determination. He was ready to embrace the challenge for the Shirai Ryu. As Izuku unleashed a fiery punch, he struck an Oni directly in the chest, feeling the impact resonate through him. After the battle, he sat down heavily, catching his breath. The Oni he had just defeated was his 100th, a milestone in his grueling training regimen. His father had been right. The training was indeed brutal. Izuku had endured exercises with a boulder on his back while being near a pool of lava, a method to acclimate him to intense heat. Hanzo had told him that his hellfire was much hotter than lava, adding to the challenge. The pain tolerance training was particularly grueling. Hanzo and the spirits of his fallen ninjas would strike him with wooden swords, pushing him to endure more than he thought possible. Despite the discomfort, Izuku found that he grew more resilient with each session. He also learned to wield katanas, mirroring the training style of Tanjiro from Kimetsu no Yaiba, and eventually progressed to using 2 katanas simultaneously. Mastering the kunai took numerous attempts, and when he finally succeeded, he accidentally injured himself. Though he panicked at first, Hanzo reassured him, quickly removing the kunai and helping him through the pain. Hanzo emphasized the importance of showing no mercy in battle, a lesson that weighed heavily on Izuku. Meanwhile, Callie and Izuku's friendship blossomed. She often bandaged his wounds after training sessions, and Izuku found comfort in resting on her couch. It took him some time to adjust to living with a girl other than his mother, but he eventually grew accustomed to it. Callie, too, adapted to Izuku's presence. He enjoyed watching her streams, though he made sure to remain quiet while doing so. He learned about her unique friends, who he found to be quite eccentric. One day, Callie approached Izuku with a cold water bottle, offering it to him. He gratefully accepted and gulped down half of it in one go. Callie looked around at the remnants of the Oni battles and asked if his father's training was truly that intense. Izuku confirmed it, noting the results were becoming evident, though he had yet to master the full extent of his Hellfire abilities. Callie suggested that there might be drawbacks to using Hellfire without complete mastery, a notion that resonated with Izuku. As Callie prepared to leave for her own tasks, Izuku sighed, reflecting on how much time had passed since he began his training. He still had 4 more years to go, and he knew he had to remain focused and dedicated to protecting the innocent and honoring the Shirai Ryu. 4 years in the underworld had finally come to an end, and Izuku was utterly exhausted. He lay on the couch, feeling the weight of his training. Callie, having just finished her stream, noticed his condition and commented on how worn out he looked. Izuku assured her that the effort had been worthwhile. Callie smiled and went to fetch some ice for his bruises, returning moments later with a bag. She handed it to him, and he placed it on the sore spots, grateful for her support. Callie couldn't help but blush at the sight of Izuku. She noticed his well-defined physique and had to admit that he looked impressive. Izuku asked if he would technically be her partner if he became the next Hellspawn. Callie confirmed that he would be, and Izuku smiled at the thought. He decided it was time to rest and closed his eyes. Callie said she would see him later. The next day arrived, bringing a sense of anticipation. Hanzo commented on how great Izuku looked, to which Izuku expressed his gratitude, admitting that he felt surprisingly comfortable. Death then declared that Izuku would be his Hellspawn, and Izuku honored the title by kneeling. Death returned something to Izuku, and he felt a surge of energy, realizing he was alive again. He thanked Death, who told him it was time to head back. Izuku asked if Hanzo could accompany him, and Hanzo eagerly agreed, expressing his excitement to see Izuku's mother again. As they prepared to leave, Callie stepped forward, asking Izuku to wait. She gently lowered his hood and, knowing they would meet again soon, gave him a kiss on the forehead. Flushed, she explained that she just wanted to give him that gesture. Izuku, equally flustered, thanked her and unsheathed his sword, cutting the ground to open a fiery portal. He and Hanzo jumped through it. They emerged at Dagoba Beach, and Izuku sheathed his sword. Hanzo suggested they head to see Izuku's mother, and Izuku nodded in agreement as they walked toward their home. Later, Izuku sat on the couch with his parents, watching television. Hanzo had surprisingly adapted well to technology, while Inko was overjoyed to see Izuku alive and shocked to see Hanzo back. Izuku noticed that Inko had changed since he last saw her, but his love for her remained unchanged. The news reported that the League of Villains, led by Tamura Shigaraki, had framed Izuku, showing footage of the destroyed truck he had been in during his transport to Tartarus. Izuku sighed, knowing they were responsible, but he felt powerless due to his injuries. The broadcast then shifted to the pro-heroes and students. Hanzo asked if Shigaraki was the villain who framed Izuku, and Izuku nodded, standing up. Hanzo inquired if those on the screen were Izuku's teachers and classmates, to which Izuku nodded again. Inko, concerned, asked where he was going. Izuku declared he was going to seek revenge and headed to his room to prepare. Inko tried to stop him, but Hanzo reassured her that Izuku was strong and deserved to pursue his vengeance. He reminded her that Izuku was now Death's Hellspawn, which allowed him to confront villains. Inko gasped, realizing that Izuku had given up on his dream of being a hero. Time passed, and Izuku was leaping from building to building, making his way to the USJ in his new hero costume. He could have teleported but chose to run since his house was too far away. As he approached the USJ, he heard explosions and felt the ground tremble. Stopping in front of the entrance, he took a deep breath, drew his kunai, and prepared for battle. Inside the USA, every pro-hero and student was down, overwhelmed by 2 powerful Nomus. Endeavor grunted in frustration, while Shigaraki taunted them, reveling in their defeat. Ida shouted at Shigaraki, reminding him that he was the one who framed Izuku. Shigaraki dismissed their camaraderie, preparing to eliminate them all, but was interrupted by a sudden fire pillar. Izuku stood tall, confronting Shigaraki. The villain, shaken, asked who he was, and Izuku revealed himself as the one Shigaraki had framed. Shock spread among everyone as Shigaraki realized it was Izuku. With a chilling voice, Izuku declared that Shigaraki would pay for ruining his life. Shigaraki, panicking, commanded the nomes to attack. Before they could move, Izuku threw his kunai, which was engulfed in flames, striking one of the nomes. He leaped over the creature, pulling the chain attached to the kunai, and with a swift motion he incapacitated the nomu, showcasing his newfound power. Shigaraki stared in disbelief at the lifeless nomu, unable to comprehend why it wasn't regenerating. Suddenly, Izuku teleported behind him, grabbing his shoulder and delivering a swift kick to his right knee, causing Shigaraki to grunt in pain. Izuku then engulfed his foot in flames and struck Shigaraki in the face, sending him flying. The nomu reappeared behind Izuku, attempting to grab him in a bear hug. However, Izuku teleported again, positioning himself upside down in front of the creature. With a fiery katana, he swiftly severed the nomu's head, and it fell to the ground, lifeless. Shigaraki, in shock, realized that Izuku had effortlessly defeated two nomes. He shouted in frustration, claiming that Izuku had cheated and should be dead. Izuku, filled with determination, declared that death had only brought him back for vengeance. Desperate, Shigaraki called for Kurogiri to get them out, but just as the portal formed, a fire-covered kunai pierced through his chest. Izuku pulled the kunai back, drawing Shigaraki closer as he landed heavily on the ground. Kurogiri rushed to Shigaraki's side, seeing the kunai had left a wound. Shigaraki struggled to stay upright, clutching his injury in pain. Izuku, enveloped in flames, charged at Shigaraki, igniting his stomach and leaving his spine exposed. With a swift motion, Izuku unsheathed his katana and severed Shigaraki's head, sending it soaring into the air. He removed Shigaraki's mask and launched his kunai, which pierced through the mouth of the fallen foe. Kurogiri called out to the young master just as Izuku appeared beside him, swiftly attempting to slice his neck. Kurogiri managed to evade the blow, but a scratch marred his metallic skin. Izuku then turned his attention to the head and incinerated it, reducing it to dust. He glared at the students and pro-heroes with a fierce intensity, prepared for any actions they might take. Izuku shifted his gaze away from the pro-heroes, who had remained silent and motionless for the past 5 minutes. The stillness was broken when Bakugo charged at him, shouting his name. Izuku stood firm, not bothering to look back. As Bakugo unleashed his quirk, he was mere inches away when Izuku suddenly teleported. Bakugo landed on his feet and spun around, only to be met with a fiery roundhouse kick that sent him flying and left him reeling in pain. Izuku remarked on Bakugo's persistent annoyance since childhood, and Bakugo felt a surge of fear at being addressed so directly. He had always been called Kachin by Izuku. Izuku lamented his earlier belief that they could still be best friends, admitting he had been mistaken. Uraraka, alarmed, questioned Izuku's actions as the students and pro-heroes rushed toward them. Izuku declared that he was about to do something he should have done long ago, unsheathing his sword and igniting it in flames. Ida urged Izuku to reconsider, insisting that he could not kill Bakugo. Ignoring him, Izuku struck with his sword, and Bakugo screamed in agony as he lost his right arm, which immediately ignited upon separation. Kirishima rushed forward, activating his quirk in an attempt to stop Izuku, but Izuku caught his attack with one hand. He then retaliated with a fiery punch to Kirishima's chest, causing him to stagger back, clutching his ribs. Mina expressed her concern for Kirishima, who admitted he feared he might have broken ribs. Aizawa reprimanded Izuku, asserting that this was not the behavior expected of a hero. Izuku vehemently countered that he was no longer a hero, having had that dream shattered by Bakugo's relentless bullying over the years. He pointed his katana at Bakugo, declaring him unworthy of being part of UA. Nizu, confused, asked if Bakugo had truly bullied him. Izuku revealed that not only Bakugo but everyone at Aldera High, including the teachers, had made his life miserable, deserving of punishment. All Might attempted to intervene, but Izuku accused him of betraying his trust by taking his quirk without hesitation, labeling him a fake hero. Bakugo, in pain, tried to respond, but Izuku silenced him with a powerful kick to the gut that left him gasping. Izuku turned his fury on his classmates, expressing his disappointment that none of them had believed in him. Momo tried to interject, but Izuku cut her off, declaring his true name, Hasashi, as flames surrounded him, causing his peers to retreat in fear. Kaminari urged him to calm down, but Izuku retorted that it was impossible after everything they had done to him. Mineta attempted to speak, but Izuku dismissed him harshly, suggesting he deserved worse for his behavior. Suddenly, Mineta was eliminated, leaving everyone in shock. A mysterious figure, Callie, appeared, revealing that she had a list of individuals to take to the underworld, and Mineta was among them. Izuku questioned her presence, and Callie explained her intentions. As the situation escalated, Uraraka collapsed, and Callie revealed that she had taken her soul. Izuku, holding a list of Callie's targets, demanded she return Uraraka's soul. Callie complied, and Uraraka revived, bewildered by the experience. Nizu offered Izuku a chance to return to UA, but he firmly declined, stating he had lost interest in being a hero. Instead, he aimed to become the strongest Hellspawn and partner with Callie in her soul-collecting endeavors. Kirishima expressed concern for Bakugo, but Izuku casually noted that he was still alive, though he could not guarantee his future as a hero. As the tension lingered, Izuku made a sarcastic remark about Kaminari's presence, prompting a light-hearted exchange. Callie then opened a portal, and as Izuku prepared to enter, he warned his former classmates that their next encounter would not be one of camaraderie. With that, he stepped through the portal, leaving behind the boy they once knew, transformed into something far more formidable. Callie was on her way to the underworld when she was interrupted by Kiara and her other genmates. Kiara playfully asked where she was going, and Callie replied that she was heading to the underworld. The girls, aware of her role as the Grim Reaper's apprentice, questioned her choice of clothing. Callie brushed it off, insisting it was just a personal preference. Kiara then asked if they could join her, but Callie quickly warned them that they might not enjoy the experience. After some back and forth, Callie decided it was time to leave. Aina expressed concern about Callie's frequent absences from their streams, but Callie explained that her streaming equipment was in the underworld and that she had tasks to complete. With that, she opened a portal and stepped through, leaving the others behind. In the underworld, Callie felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. She had no tasks from her mentor and no streaming obligations. Her real reason for being there was to ask Izuku out. Since his training, he had become more confident, but he still got flustered around girls, especially when it came to romantic matters. Suddenly, a noise startled Callie, and she discovered a monster's head nearby, indicating that Izuku had been fighting. Following the sounds of battle, she found him engaged in combat with a figure dressed in black, wielding a sickle. Izuku skillfully dodged an attack and countered with precision, defeating his opponent with a swift strike. Callie rushed to Izuku's side, noticing he was injured but still focused on the battle. He muttered about the nature of his fight, explaining that he had been tasked with eliminating demons trying to usurp Death's position. Callie expressed her relief that he was okay, but she couldn't help but notice his injuries. Curious about her outfit, Izuku asked why she was dressed as a rapper in the underworld. Callie hesitated, feeling nervous and flustered. After a moment of gathering her courage, she blurted out her desire to go on a date with him. Izuku was taken aback but agreed, and Callie felt a rush of excitement. After setting a time to meet on Earth, Callie stepped through a portal, hoping she wouldn't mess things up. Meanwhile, Izuku prepared to report back to Death before teleporting away. Later, Callie waited outside Dagoba Beach, leaning against a lamppost. After 10 minutes of anticipation, she began to worry that Izuku might not show up. Just then, a slash in the ground opened, and Izuku emerged, ready for their date. He apologized for being late, and they set off together. As they enjoyed their lunch date, Callie took Izuku's hand, which he accepted without hesitation. They strolled through the city, but Izuku occasionally had to deal with minor villains causing trouble. Despite the interruptions, they had a wonderful time together. After finishing their drinks, Izuku remarked on how much fun they had, and Callie agreed wholeheartedly. Just then, she turned around and froze, spotting her friends approaching. Still holding Izuku's hand, it was clear to everyone that this was a date. Callie expressed her surprise, feeling nervous about the unexpected encounter. Aina pointed out that Callie had chosen to wear her rapper outfit instead of her usual attire for their trip to the underworld. Watson inquired about Izuku's identity, to which he introduced himself and asked if the girls were Callie's genmates. Gura excitedly confirmed their connection and asked if Izuku was Callie's boyfriend, prompting a stuttered denial from him. Callie quickly clarified that they were just friends taking a break from their busy schedules. Gura, however, seemed skeptical, and Callie realized she was still holding Izuku's hand. Flustered, she let go and looked away, insisting that it wasn't what it seemed. Kara, in disbelief, questioned their relationship, leading to a flurry of misunderstandings about Callie's orientation. Callie firmly stated her feelings for Izuku, which left her blushing and flustered. Izuku, equally embarrassed, remarked on the unusual nature of their connection, noting that as a Hellspawn he was not entirely human. Watson casually munched on popcorn, while Aina playfully demanded to know where he had acquired it. Just then, Bakugo and the rest of Class 1A arrived, catching Izuku's attention. He turned to Callie, suggesting she resolve things with Kiara while he dealt with Baku. Izuku noticed Bakugo's robotic arms and commented on them, to which Bakugo proudly responded about their enhancement to his strength. Izuku retorted about Bakugo's unchanged ego, prompting Bakugo to challenge him. Kirishima urged Bakugo not to engage, warning him of the consequences. Ida then apologized for their past actions, but Izuku expressed his doubts about their sincerity, recalling how he had saved Ida from a dangerous situation. Uraraka was shocked by Izuku's harsh words, but he stood firm in his feelings, pointing out the betrayal he felt. Bakugo, furious, charged at Izuku, but Izuku skillfully dodged and countered, sending Bakugo back with a powerful strike. Concerned, Kaminari checked on Bakugo, who grumbled about his injuries. Izuku defended his actions, arguing that he had endured worse treatment from them. Shoto reminded Izuku of his aspirations to be a hero, but Izuku questioned why he would want that when he could embrace his identity as a Hellspawn. He explained his role in serving the ruler of the underworld, which raised concerns among his classmates about the implications of his actions. Izuku argued that eliminating potential threats was necessary for society's safety. Suddenly, Bakugo aimed an explosive attack at Izuku, causing a tremor as the blast hit. Callie cried out in alarm, while Bakugo celebrated what he thought was Izuku's defeat. However, to everyone's shock, Izuku emerged from the smoke, seemingly unscathed, his wounds healing rapidly. Kaminari was incredulous, and Izuku pointed out that Bakugo could never truly defeat someone immortal. Just then, Aizawa intervened, placing Bakugo under arrest for his attack on Izuku. Bakugo protested, claiming Izuku was a villain, but Aizawa pressed him on whether Izuku had harmed anyone innocent, leaving Bakugo speechless. Nizu approached, suggesting detention for Bakugo, but Izuku revealed that he had a new target from death, Bakugo himself. The revelation left everyone in shock, and Uraraka denied the claim, but Izuku produced a scroll with Bakugo's information, confirming the truth of his statement. Kirishima asked if Izuku would kill him. Izuku replied that he wouldn't, as he wanted him to suffer as he had for 10 long years. He expressed a desire for balance, stating that if he were to imprison him in Tartarus for 20 years, he wouldn't take his life. Snipe inquired about the possibility of escape, and Izuku ominously stated that he would send him to a place worse than Tartarus. Nizu acknowledged Izuku's words, and Izuku indicated that he might forgive the heroes. Uraraka was surprised, but Izuku clarified that he was speaking to the pro-heroes, not her. All Might asked if he truly would, to which Izuku affirmed, but only if they allowed him to continue his work as a Hellspawn, as he had lost interest in being a hero. Aizawa agreed, provided that Izuku did not harm any innocent people. Izuku then announced his intention to leave, requesting Aizawa to keep his students away from him. Aizawa sighed, rubbing his temples, already feeling the weight of the situation. Izuku called for Callie, who nodded in response. She cheerfully bid farewell to the girls, promising to join the collaboration the next day, before running to Izuku's side. As they walked together near Dagoba Beach, Callie expressed her disappointment about their ruin date. Izuku reassured her that it wasn't ruined, leaving Callie confused. When she asked for clarification, he laughed and confessed his feelings, saying he loved her too. He leaned in and kissed her, causing her to blush deeply. Initially shocked, she soon kissed him back, and after a few moments, they pulled away. Callie stammered, playfully scolding him for being so sudden. Izuku chuckled and asked if that meant she wouldn't be his girlfriend, noting that she seemed to enjoy the kiss. Callie quickly declared that she would indeed be his girlfriend. With a laugh, Izuku said he needed to head home and promised to see her the next day. He gave her a quick peck on the lips before backing away and vanishing. Callie turned, took her scythe, and sliced the air, feeling a mix of emotions. She was now in her room, having set her scythe aside. She fell onto her bed and let out a frustrated scream into her pillow, feeling embarrassed about confessing her love so openly. Time passed, and 20 years later, Izuku found himself in front of Katsuki Bakugo, who was strapped to a chair. Although Bakugo had behaved well in prison, he had already gotten into trouble after just 3 months of being released. Momo had married Todoroki, Ochaco had married Ida, Kaminari had married Jiro, and Izuku had married Callie. Oddly enough, Izuku had stopped aging at 18, and despite being over 30, he still looked young. Death had informed him that he was immortal, just like Callie, allowing them to be together forever. The League of Villains had been defeated by Izuku, who was now known as the famous vigilante Scorpion, while Todoroki had taken the title of #1 hero. A tired guard explained that Bakugo was illegally acquiring materials to upgrade his metal arms and attacking innocent people out of anger. Izuku decided to take over the situation, telling the guard to go home and rest. Izuku confronted Bakugo about his reckless actions, reminding him that he could have asked Hatsum for help instead. Bakugo shouted defiantly, still the same stubborn person he had been in their teenage years. Izuku felt a headache coming on as he muttered under his breath. He then reminded Bakugo of their past agreement, which Bakugo seemed to have forgotten. Izuku unsheathed his katana, indicating that Bakugo had dug his own grave. Before Bakugo could fully react, Izuku moved swiftly, and in a flash, the guards witnessed the aftermath. Bakugo's body slumped, and Izuku wiped his katana clean before sheathing it. One of the guards expressed shock, but Izuku simply walked out, telling them they could head home. As he left, a fire portal appeared beneath Bakugo's corpse, and it vanished into the flames. Later, Izuku encountered his old classmates, who were still in their hero outfits. They asked about Bakugo, having heard he was brought back to Tartarus. Izuku revealed that Bakugo was dead, shocking everyone. When they inquired about how it happened, Izuku stated plainly that he had cut off Bakugo's head. The classmates were taken aback, and Izuku questioned whether they intended to capture him. They quickly assured him they did not. As he walked past them, Ida called out, asking if Izuku still harbored hatred towards them. Izuku looked away, contemplating before admitting that he didn't hate them as much anymore. Suddenly, he was enveloped in flames and vanished. In the underworld, Izuku arrived at the castle and noticed that the throne had changed to a smaller one. He searched for Callie and encountered Rashaya, who informed him that Callie was in her room. Izuku asked about Bakugo's soul, and Rashaya confirmed she was placing it in the pits of Tartarus. After thanking her, Izuku made his way to Callie's room. He had been walking for a while, still getting lost in the castle despite the years he had spent there. Finally, he knocked on Callie's door. When he entered, he found Callie lounging on her bed. Surprised, he closed the door behind him. Callie playfully mentioned that she missed his touch, explaining that her new responsibilities as the ruler of the underworld kept her busy. Izuku sighed, acknowledging her busy schedule. He decided to join her on the bed, and they shared a tender moment, expressing their love for one another and promising to be together forever. The story concluded with a sense of hope and enduring love.